Redmond College. Avonlea seemed a world away, a distant memory. I'm here to learn, to grow, to become the woman I always dreamed of being, to chase my dreams.
Anne Shirley, bright eyes shining with ambition, stepped off the train, her heart racing. The brick buildings, the bustling students, the air thick with the promise of knowledge. It was exhilarating and overwhelming. Anne drank it all in, her heart thrumming with anticipation and excitement. This was her fresh start, her chance to leave behind the echoes of Green Gables and write her own story, her own destiny. Little did she know a far different tale was about to unfold, one she never expected. The rumors intensified. Whispers of an unknown illness spread like wildfire through the campus, each tale more terrifying than the last. Students spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously as if the very act of speaking might summon the horrors they described. Students began falling ill, missing classes. The infirmary overflowed. The once bustling hallways grew eerily silent as more and more students were confined to their beds, their faces pale and drenched in sweat. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and fear. Coughs turned into delirious ramblings, then into guttural moans. The sounds echoed through the dormitories, a haunting symphony of suffering that seemed to grow louder with each passing night. Friends and classmates watched helplessly as their loved ones slipped into madness. The staff, overwhelmed and confused, struggled to maintain order. They worked tirelessly, their faces etched with exhaustion and despair. Despite their best efforts, the illness continued to spread, its origins a mystery that eluded even the most experienced doctors. One night the screams started. They pierced the silence like a knife, sending shivers down the spines of those who heard them. The once peaceful campus was now a place of terror, the screams a constant reminder of the horrors lurking in the shadows, blood-curdling, desperate pleas echoing through the normally peaceful campus. The screams were filled with a primal fear, a sound that spoke of unimaginable horrors. Students huddled in their rooms, their hearts pounding as they listened to the cries for help. Anne and her friends huddled together in their dormitory room, fear a cold fist squeezing their hearts. They clung to each other, their eyes wide with terror as the screams grew louder. The walls seemed to close in around them, the darkness pressing in from all sides. Something dark and sinister had infiltrated their sanctuary. The air was thick with a sense of impending doom, a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. They could feel it in their bones, a primal instinct that told them they were in grave danger.
They're here! The words were barely a whisper, but they sent a chill down Anne's spine. She looked at her friends, their faces pale and drawn, and knew that they were all thinking the same thing. The rumors were true. The horrors were real.
A frantic pounding on their door sent them scrambling. They jumped to their feet, their hearts racing as the sound grew louder. The door shook under the force of the blows, and they knew that whatever was on the other side was desperate to get in. Jane Andrews, their classmate, burst in, her eyes wide with terror. She was breathing heavily, her face streaked with tears. She looked at them with a wild, desperate expression, and they knew that something terrible had happened.
They're everywhere. Her voice was a high-pitched wail, filled with panic and fear. She looked over her shoulder as if expecting something to burst through the door at any moment. The fear in her eyes was contagious, and Anne felt her own heart begin to race.
She was covered in blood, her words tumbling over each other incoherently. The sight of the blood sent a wave of nausea through Anne, and she had to fight to keep from retching. Jane's words were a jumbled mess, but the fear in her voice was unmistakable. Before Anne could question her further, a horrifying groan sounded from the hallway. They were trapped. The sound was low and guttural, a noise that sent a shiver down Anne's spine. She looked at her friends, their faces pale with fear, and knew that they had to act quickly. Diana barricaded the door with trembling hands as Gilbert frantically searched for a way out. They moved with a sense of urgency, their movements quick and jerky. The sound of the groans grew louder, and they knew that time was running out. Anne, her mind racing, tried to make sense of the chaos. She thought about the rumors, the illness, the screams. It all seemed to point to one horrifying possibility, a thought that she had been trying to push away but could no longer ignore. The rumors, the illness, the screams, it all pointed to one horrifying possibility: zombies. The word echoed in her mind, a thought that was both unbelievable and terrifyingly real. She looked at her friends, their faces filled with fear, and knew that they were all thinking the same thing. The word echoed in her mind, unbelievable yet terrifyingly real. They were under attack. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut, and she knew that they had to find a way to survive. The campus was no longer a place of safety. It was a battleground, and they were in the fight of their lives. The night was a blur of terror. The once peaceful campus of Redmond had transformed into a nightmarish battleground. The students, who had been preparing for exams and planning their futures just days before, now found themselves fighting for their lives. The darkness was filled with the sounds of chaos, screams, crashes, and the relentless moans of the undead. Huddled in their makeshift fortress, they listened as the undead tore through the dormitory, their moans a symphony of death. The walls, once a symbol of safety and learning, now felt like a fragile barrier against the relentless horde outside. Every creak and groan of the building sent shivers down their spines, a constant reminder of the danger lurking just beyond. Jane, traumatized by what she had witnessed, could only sob quietly in a corner. Her mind replayed the horrific scenes over and over, the friends she had lost, the moments of sheer terror. She clutched a photo of her family, a small piece of her past life that she desperately tried to hold on to amidst the chaos. Dawn painted the sky a sickly gray, revealing the true extent of the horror. The first light of day brought no comfort, only a clearer view of the devastation that had befallen their once beautiful campus. Buildings were reduced to rubble, and the grounds were littered with the remnants of a life that seemed so distant now. The once pristine campus was now a graveyard of the living. The undead roamed freely, their presence a constant threat. The students who had once walked these paths with dreams and aspirations now found themselves navigating a landscape of death and decay. The air reeked of decay and death. The stench was overpowering, a nauseating reminder of the countless lives lost. It clung to their clothes, their skin, a constant presence that they could not escape.
We have to get out of here. The words hung in the air, a desperate plea for survival. They knew that staying in the dormitory was not an option. The walls that had once protected them were now a prison, and the only way to survive was to escape.
Escaping the dorm was a terrifying ordeal. The hallways, once filled with laughter and life, were now a gauntlet of horrors. Every corner they turned, every door they opened, held the potential for a deadly encounter. The fear was palpable, a living thing that threatened to consume them. Every step was fraught with danger, every shadow a potential threat. The campus, once a place of learning and growth, had become a twisted maze of terror. They moved cautiously, their senses heightened. Every sound and movement scrutinized for signs of danger, every shadow a potential threat. The darkness seemed to come alive, playing tricks on their minds. The fear of the unknown was almost as paralyzing as the fear of the undead themselves. They were forced to confront the grotesque reality of the undead, their rotting flesh, their vacant eyes, their insatiable hunger. The sight was almost too much to bear, a horrifying reminder of what they were up against. The undead were relentless, driven by a hunger that could not be sated, and, despite her fear, found a steely resolve within herself. She had always been strong, but this situation demanded a new level of courage. She knew that she had to be strong, not just for herself, but for those around her. She would not succumb to panic. She would survive. The determination in her eyes was clear. She had made a decision, and she would see it through. No matter what it took, she would fight to survive. For herself and for her friends. They had become her family in this nightmare, and she would do whatever it took to protect them. The bonds they had formed were unbreakable, forged in the fires of their shared ordeal. Their small group, guided by instinct and desperation, navigated the ravaged campus. They moved with purpose, their goal clear. Every step was a step toward survival, a step away from the horrors that pursued them. They encountered other survivors, students and staff alike, some catatonic with fear, others armed and desperate. The campus had become a microcosm of the larger world, a place where the strong survived and the weak perished. A sense of grim camaraderie began to form. They were all in this together, united by their shared struggle. The bonds they formed were a source of strength, a reminder that they were not alone in this nightmare. They were all fighting the same nightmare now, united against a common enemy. The undead were relentless, but so were they. They had found a strength within themselves that they never knew existed. The world they knew was gone, replaced by a horrifying new reality. The campus, once a place of hope and dreams, was now a desolate wasteland. But even in the midst of this devastation, they found a reason to keep going. But amidst the chaos and death, a spark of defiance ignited. They refused to give up, refused to let the darkness consume them. They would fight, not just for their survival, but for the hope of a better future. They would not go down without a fight. The determination in their eyes was clear. They had faced the worst that the world could throw at them, and they had survived. Now they would fight back, with everything they had. The library became their sanctuary. It was a place where the echoes of the past met the harsh realities of the present. The once bustling halls, filled with the whispers of students and the rustling of pages, now stood silent, a fortress against the chaos outside. Its sturdy walls and limited entrances offered a semblance of safety. They weren't alone. The library, with its thick stone walls and heavy wooden doors, provided a refuge that felt almost impenetrable. It was a place where they could catch their breath, if only for a moment. A small group of students and faculty had also sought refuge there, each bearing the scars of the night's horrors. Their faces told stories of loss and survival, of battles fought and loved ones left behind. They were a diverse group brought together by fate and the need to survive. Mr. Phillips, their history professor, emerged as an unlikely leader, his calm demeanor a steadying presence in the storm. He was a man who had spent his life studying the past, and now he was guiding them through a present that felt like a nightmare from history. He organized the survivors, assigning tasks and rationing supplies. His knowledge of ancient sieges and survival tactics became invaluable. He taught them how to make the most of their limited resources, how to stay hidden, and how to keep hope alive. They were a motley crew, bound together by fear and circumstance, but they were alive for now. Each day was a struggle, but they found strength in their unity. They shared stories, laughed when they could, and held each other up when the weight of their situation threatened to crush them.
We can't give up. We have to keep fighting, for ourselves and for those we've lost. We owe it to them to survive. There has to be a way out of this nightmare. We can't stay hidden forever. We need to find a way to fight back, to reclaim our world.
Days turned into weeks. The initial shock gave way to a grim determination. They adapted to their new reality, finding ways to make the library feel like a home, even as the world outside continued to fall apart. They scavenged for food, water, anything that could help them survive. Every trip outside was a risk, but it was a risk they had to take. They learned to move silently, to avoid detection, and to work together as a team. The library, once a haven for knowledge, became their fortress against the relentless undead horde. They used bookshelves to barricade doors, desks to create makeshift beds, and the knowledge within the books to find new ways to survive. Anne, her initial terror giving way to a fierce determination, proved to be a valuable asset. She was resourceful and brave, always willing to take on the most dangerous tasks if it meant keeping the group safe. Her quick thinking and resourcefulness saved them on more than one occasion. Whether it was finding hidden supplies or devising escape plans, Anne was always one step ahead. She refused to give in to despair, clinging to the belief that there had to be a way out of this nightmare. Her hope was infectious, giving the others the strength to keep going, even when things seemed hopeless.
Look, over here, a hidden room. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for.
One day, while searching the ravaged campus, they stumbled upon a hidden room in the science building. It was a place that had been forgotten, untouched by the chaos that had consumed the rest of the world. Inside, they found Professor Davies, a reclusive scientist known for his unorthodox experiments. He was a man who had always been on the fringes, but now he held the key to their survival. He was delirious, his body racked with fever, but he was alive. His mind, though clouded by illness, still held the knowledge they needed, and he held the key to understanding the source of the outbreak. His research, though incomplete, offered a glimmer of hope. With a trembling hand, he handed them his journal. It was filled with notes, diagrams, and theories that could lead to a cure.
The answers are all here. We just need to piece them together. This could be our chance to end this nightmare.
Find the cure! Stop it before it spreads! His voice was weak, but his determination was clear. He had dedicated his life to this research, and now it was up to them to finish what he had started. And with that, he succumbed to the virus that was ravaging the world. His death was a stark reminder of the stakes, but it also fueled their resolve. They had a mission now, a purpose that went beyond mere survival. They had to find the cure for Professor Davies, for themselves, and for the world.